What's up guys? It's Meg and it's that time of the week again where we get to talk about the best show on television, AMC's The Walking Dead. Today we're talking about season 4 episode 11 called Claimed. It was a great episode. It was a little bit slower paced than our normal episodes that are so action packed, but it's to be expected. We do need to have some slower scenes where we just see character progression and story progression as opposed to the constant zombie fighting madness we've seen. I really liked it. I loved that we got to see Abraham and Eugene and Rosita's group and some Glenn and Tara interaction with them, and then I love that we also got to see more Michonne character development and then some crazy intense scenes for Rick. So before we get started into all the little details, I wanted to let you guys know that there's not going to be any reaction videos this week. Some of you may know that I just recently got a Canon Rebel T3i camera, and I am not good with technology at all. And I didn't realize when I bought it that my older laptop is just not really compatible with those high definition, you know, really good quality pictures and videos that I get from that new camera. So I was not able to edit any of it or load any of it onto the computer and have it actually work. So I'm really sorry there's no reaction videos this week. Next week should be somewhat back to normal. I'm just going to start filming on my vlogging camera again and we'll see what happens. I am going on vacation next Monday, so I'm not sure what I'll be able to get up that morning. I'll probably have to stay up all night after the episode, but we'll get something up for you guys. Thank you as always for watching. I appreciate you guys so much. So let's get right into it. Let's talk about Rick and Michonne and Carl's group first. So we see some laughter between Carl and Michonne and some good, like, just they seemed really happy for a few moments there. They're eating breakfast in the house that they've been staying at with Rick, and they're kind of joking around about milk and soy milk and stuff, and you see Carl laughing, and for a split moment there I think that they both kind of forget what's been going on around them and all of the madness, and it's so good to see our characters every once in a while just get a brief moment of happiness in the crazy world that they're living in. And then Carl quickly accidentally mentions Judith and remembers, you know, everything that's happened, and that happiness is taken away in a split second, and he kind of goes off to his room, and Michonne goes in the kitchen with Rick, and Rick thanks her for making him laugh and getting Carl happy, even if it was only for a few moments, that he couldn't do that and be a father to him, and so it was good that Michonne was still there. They also talk a little bit, like we saw in the commercials, about whether or not they were going to stay in the house, and Rick says, you know, let's just stay here while we figure things out. Like, he's not really ready to make a commitment to move on or anything, and I think he just so badly wants a home for Carl and a steady, safe place that he doesn't even necessarily want to move on and see if they can find anyone else or see where else they can go. So Michonne and Carl go out on a quick run for some food and supplies and things, and they come to a house, and Michonne has already found spray cheese, and there's some she's trying to make Carl laugh because she knows that Carl's kind of in that mood, and she mentions her son, and Carl gets very interested at this because no one in our group knows Michonne's backstory at all, so this is really the first time that she's ever mentioned it to anyone, and I think she's trying to relate to Carl because she knows that Carl is grieving for his baby sister, and she's trying in some way to relate to him, make him laugh, and then she mentions her son, and it's really good to hear, you know, after her dreams that she is bringing it up and she's not so closed off that she's keeping it deep, you know, deep down hidden and not telling anyone. So she agrees to answer one question for him per room of the house, and she says that the child was her only child. We hear his name, and they're off looking in rooms, and she discovers this child's room, boys and a little girl's, and when she walks into the little girl's room she sees the entire family dead on the beds. It's obviously murder-suicide, and I think that hits really close to home for her. It shocks her at first, but I'm fairly certain that was our last clue that is indeed what happened with her boyfriend, husband, his friend, and their son. And I think that's just kind of giving us, she may not say it She may say it eventually, but I think that's giving us one more clue as to what really happened. She shuts the door. She doesn't let Carl see, and Carl mentions that maybe Judith and her son, I think his name was Andre, are together somewhere. And it's just, I really like that she told him about her son, because it gives Carl someone to relate to other than his dad. We all know it, as kids, it's harder to relate to our parents because they're our authority figure, and it's nice to be able for him to say something to a friend and not his dad and get some of those feelings out that he's been holding in. So we switch back to Rick, who has gone upstairs and taken a nap in the bedroom, and he wakes up and hears sounds downstairs. The sounds he hears are, and I did not catch this the first time, but I watched the show twice. The sounds that he hears are a man screaming downstairs saying, "Please, please don't, something like that." It was like, "Please, please don't." And then he just lets out this scream, and you hear multiple men's voices down there, and Rick he's jolted awake, and he panics, and he hears people coming up the stairs, and he rolls under the bed, and he's hiding under the bed, and these scenes are so intense. And he's hiding under the bed, and the guy comes and he sits down and he falls asleep, or starts to fall asleep. And then another man comes upstairs, and essentially there's this altercation between these two men kind of fighting for this alpha position, because there's only one nice bed in the house and the other bed is a child's bed. And the guy kicks the other guy, I don't know their names or anything, but the guy that comes upstairs kicks the other guy out of the bed, and when the other guy fights him for it, he essentially puts him in, I guess, a sleeper hold. I don't think he was dead, and makes him pass out just as he sees Rick under the bed. Which was good that he passed out. So then the other guy lays on the bed and falls asleep, and Rick is still stuck under the bed, and I think he's just like panicking. He doesn't know what to do. And there's some very intense scenes where he's trying to escape, and the people keep coming up and down the stairs, and he kills a guy in the bathroom, and he escapes out the window, but he leaves the bathroom door open so that when the guy turns into a walker, he can get out and attack the people. Is it unusual? So I've been seeing lately, it appears as if the walkers are turning quite a bit more quickly than they used to. I know in like season 2, the variation in times where someone dies and then they come back as a walker was varied greatly. Like some people it took 8 hours, some people it took 15 minutes. But it seems like, and I don't know if they're just doing it for the story, or maybe they didn't like that aspect of the story back in season 2, so they're trying to make it seem as if as soon as a person dies, they reawaken as a walker. But it seems like people are turning into walkers quite a bit quicker than they used to. There's not really much of a time frame where, you know, an hour or anything. It seems like it's fairly quick after they die that they're becoming walkers, which I feel like it didn't always used to be that way. But maybe it just fits the story better. So anyway, Rick gets off the roof and is on the porch, and he's hiding, and Michonne and Carl are coming around the corner, and the bad guys outside, and it's just so intense. I loved it. I loved seeing Rick in that position where he's hurt still, but he's got to fight for his life, and he finally overcomes this guy in the bathroom. And to me, I'm like, you know, he was perfectly healthy when he fought off the governor, or when he fought the governor, and the governor got the best of him. And maybe it's because the governor was just crazy, and when you're crazy, maybe you're more powerful. I don't know. But he couldn't fight off the governor, and yet he fought off this guy in the bathroom when he already is injured and has potentially broken ribs and a hurt leg, and he managed to kill this guy. It was just kind of but he escapes out the window, and the guy turns into a walker just in time for Rick to escape and get Michonne and Carl and leave. And it was just so intense. I loved it. I loved that they threw that little bit in there close to the end of the show, because I realized, you know, there's like 5 minutes to go left of the show, and we haven't really seen that much action. So Rick and Carl and Michonne escape, and they're walking down the railroad tracks, and they see a sign for the sanctuary terminus, and they decide to follow it. I'm going to make another video here on my thoughts on terminus and what I think it really means. But so they are now headed that way. So far we have Tyrese and Carol and the kids, and Michonne and Rick and Carl. So we know eventually they're all going to meet up there, because that's the way they're headed. So far we don't know anything about Maggie, Sasha, and Bob, and we don't know. It looked as if Daryl and Beth were going the opposite way in the last episode. Okay, so that is it for Michonne, Carl, and Rick. Let's talk about Abraham's group next. I forgot. I'm getting way ahead of myself here. I wanted to talk back about the group that entered Rick's house one more time. These guys were clearly really bad guys. For one, I wanted to go back to when Rick wakes up, he hears that guy screaming downstairs. So I'm not sure what happened. Either the men came in and they had some sort of hostage or something and they killed the guy, because the guy was clearly begging for his life or something, because he's saying, please, please, don't, and then you hear him scream. But we don't know exactly what they did to him, and we don't see his body or anything. That could also be the walker that turned and not necessarily the walker in the bathroom that Rick, or the person in the bathroom that Rick killed, because that guy may have died quite a bit earlier. And then we see that the guys are fighting over a bed. So they're clearly not necessarily fond of each other. Maybe they've just banded together to survive and they're all kind of these scum of the earth guys. But it really seems like they're pretty bad guys. Now they also discover Michonne's shirt, and you kind of hear them talk. I couldn't quite hear what they were saying, but it was kind of like, if we find, she's probably far away by now, but if we find her, I get dibs on her or something. These guys remind me of the men back at the farm that, the boy that Shane killed, that knew Maggie, if you guys remember that episode, that boy was from he said was from a really bad group of guys that raped a girl and made her dad watch, and just like really awful guys. There's been a lot of speculation that maybe these guys are the hunters. I don't really know. You know, the guy downstairs, when he was saying, no, please don't, they could have chopped his leg off or something, and that's why he screamed and passed out. We don't really know. There's been a lot of speculation of when the hunters will come in. All we do know are these guys are really bad guys. It seems like they're definitely people you don't want to run into, but they also seem to not really care for each other. You know, the fight over the bed, the guy nearly chokes the other guy to death. It just seems a little weird. I don't necessarily think that's the last that we'll see of these guys. Okay, to get on to Abraham and Rosita, Eugene, Glenn, and Tara, we see that Glenn and Tara have gotten in the back of Abraham's truck. They must have hauled Glenn in there because he's totally passed out. We see some interaction between Abraham and Tara, and Abraham is just a really interesting guy. Now, I know him from the comics. I wasn't quite sure if they would play him the same way on the television show, but it so far seems as if they're following the same storyline. We see Tara and Abraham, and then Glenn wakes up and he discovers that they have been driving for 3 hours in the opposite direction of where he wanted to go to try and find Maggie. Tara, I don't know what to say about Tara. She seems like a really good girl. She's trying to do what's right now and make up for it. So she gets Glenn in the back of Abraham's truck, and I think it's really because she doesn't really know how to protect herself out there. Glenn's passed out. She didn't know what else to do, so she got in the truck, but she made sure to write down the directions to get Glenn back to the bus if that's what he wanted to do. And I really appreciated that from her. I think that is just one step in her redeeming herself for her actions with the governor. So Glenn wakes up and Abraham tries to stop him from leaving. And the whole time I was like, Abraham, who are you to tell him that he can't go and do what he wants? Like, you're just gonna keep him your prisoner or something? You know, and Glenn wasn't having that at all. Even though he's feeling sick still and weak, he punches Abraham in the face and gets into a big fight with him. And while this fight is happening, all of the noise is drawing out all of these walkers, and Eugene, we get to see a little of Eugene action here, and he just starts shooting everywhere wildly and ends up shooting the truck and killing the truck. And we kind of see a brief where he says, I don't know what he says exactly, I can't remember now, but he's like, how could you manage to kill the truck? And Eugene responds in this very matter-of-fact way that makes you realize that he's very smart, or at least he wants you to think that he's very smart, and yet stupid when it comes to firearms and stuff. So really he needs Abraham to protect him. We discover that they have a mission, and it does appear to be the same mission as in the comics. They're trying to get to Washington, D.C. because Eugene knows how to fix what's happened. Now, to me, even if I hadn't read the comics, I would find this a little strange because After nearly 2 years, has it been 2 years since the zombie apocalypse started? It seems a little hard to go back to the way things used to be. Even if you made it to Washington, D.C. and you have the cure, all of these, I mean, it just seems like this whole zombie apocalypse thing is a little too far gone now to make things back the way they used to be. But anyhow, apparently Abraham believes him and is trying to get him there, and he's very concerned about their mission. But because the truck is now not working, they end up following Glenn back. So now they have to walk, which is going to take way longer than 3 hours driving. They have to walk back that way. So they're going to probably get themselves into a lot of trouble. And my thoughts now are they may not be the group that ends up meeting back up with everyone by the end of the finale. They seem just really far away to make it back, you know, to somehow figure out where everyone else is going. Yeah, I think that's it for today, you guys. I think I mentioned everything. I'm going to do another video, like I said, on Terminus and what I think that means and what I think is going to happen there. But that's it for today on my thoughts on the show Claimed. If you guys have any thoughts or anything to add to this, please leave it in the comments below. And I will see you tomorrow with another episode on Terminus. If this is the first video you've ever watched of me, give it a big I can't talk. Give it a big thumbs up and subscribe because I do videos every week. Thanks so much for watching, you guys. Bye!